Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench, and it's Solar Sunday. So today we're teaching poodles how to fly.
Where did you find this guy?
Me? I thought you hired him.
For those of you just joining us, today we're teaching poodles how to fly.
And today is going to be a sort of a long video because it's a little bit tricky. And I want to make sure you understand it. So I repeat myself several times. I show you how to do it, deal with it, or go find a different video.
Please subscribe.
My particular power station uses an XT60, and my solar panels use MC4 connections. So if I want to make another extension that will go between my power station and my solar panels, this is only 10 foot long. I make them my own. This is a 50-foot roll of 10 gauge wire, red and black, and I am going to put MC4 connectors on the end of it to make a proper extension cord. Let me show you how. Okay, so what I have here is a solar extension. On one side I have an XT60 connection, and this is what my power station in particular takes, the XT60. So if I want to plug this into the 12-volt system in my car, or I want to plug it into solar panels, I use an XT60 that plugs into the back of my Delta 2, and the other end I put MC4 connectors on so that I can connect it to solar panels, because that's how my power station works. Yours might take a different end, but today we're talking about MC4 connections. So this happens to be a 10-foot extension that I bought off Amazon, and I'll leave the link in the description. And I told you guys that I make my own cables. So what I have here is a 50-foot roll of 10 gauge wire, and you can see on this side I've already split it, and I've already cleaned the casing off the ends here. That's so I'm ready when I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did that, but basically what I have, both ends have nothing. This is just a coil of 50-foot wire that I bought. I will leave a link for this down in the description as well. And this gives me the ability to connect to my solar panels from my power station and gives me a 50-foot lead. Now, you might not want that long of a lead, and I originally didn't. That's why I have the 10-footer. My backyard has trees on this side where my office is. On this side, there are no trees whatsoever. And right now, because my office is over here, I have my solar panels set up over here. So I get sun on them from about 9:30, 10 in the morning till about 2 p.m. Then all of a sudden the shade starts to come over and cover them up, and I don't get any solar power after 2 o'clock unless I move my solar panels all the way to the other side of my yard. And that's why I want a 50-foot extension. This will get my solar panels all the way into the sun, where I get 8, 9, even 10 hours worth of sun, and without having to move my generator. And because my power station max will accept 500 watts, I'm only running 350 watts through this. This 10 gauge wire will handle that no problem. It's what the manufacturer says is necessary, as well as the XT60 connections. So let me show you real quick how easy it is when you buy wire by the coil. In case you've never done this before, take a normal box cutter or razor knife, go right in the center, and then pull straight through. And now you'll have a nice split. Now I like to pull 8 inches, maybe 10 inches, something like that, so that I have enough room that I can get to my MC4 connectors and be able to plug things in and go that way if I need to, but not go too far. So the next thing I do is I take a zip tie and I put it on there, and I just pull it good and tight. And what that does is it won't allow these to open up anymore. So eventually, if you leave this alone, you'll split these wires all the way down and you'll have 20 feet of just loose double wires. And I want my wires to stay together, so by putting a zip tie on there, they will stay together from that point on. And if I want, I can slide the zip tie. It doesn't move real easily because it's on the casing. So it doesn't move too easy, but I could move this down if I needed to, or cut it off and put another one on so that I had more slack if I found a reason to need to go wider. Now, you can use wire strippers if you want, but this 10 gauge wire is, well, it's a little thick for your average stripper. So what you want is to take about 1/4 of an inch off. I use my razor blade. If you slice and push until you feel the wire, without trying to cut through the wire, and then just twist it. You see I'm twisting with this hand. Twist as you go. You'll feel the wire on the blade. You're not hurting the wire at all. Make sure you go all the way around, and if you cut all the way through, you can get your fingernail up in there and you can just pull that right off. Now you just make sure that you give that a little twist. If there's any wires, this is stranded wire, so if you did cut through any wire, that any little pieces might come off, you're good to go. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to pull back about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to work the casing until I feel the blade hit the wire. And I can't really explain to you what it'll feel like, but you'll be going through the outer casing and you'll hit the wire and you'll definitely feel the difference. And you can even use the end of the knife just to pop that off. Give it a twist, and now we're all set. So now I have both sides of my wire the same way. This was the easy part. Don't worry, the hard part's not too hard, but it is a little difficult to understand. Let me show you. Now this is a kit of MC4 connectors that I bought off of Amazon. It has 30 pairs, not 30 pieces. So remember, when you're shopping on Amazon, if you see the number, look for the word pairs, not pieces, because 30 pieces could mean 15 pairs. It could actually mean 7 pairs, because they might include the inner pieces. So just double check that you have 30 pairs. And I will put the link to this in the description as well. This has done me well. I've used quite a few out of here. I've added some more to it. It comes with a bag of inner connections, and it comes with outer connections. It also comes with 2 of these tools. You don't want to lose these tools, believe me. So I keep this whole kit together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out 1 tool, 2 tools. These are in pairs, so I'm going to pull out 2 pairs of these. These are both sides of the connectors put together in a hole. And out of this bag, you want to pull out 2 sets of inner connectors. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you've ever worked with any kind of electricity before, you know that you refer to the 2 ends as male and female, okay? Even pretend this was something that I wanted to plug into a wall socket. I have male pins on my plug, and the wall socket itself is a female side, so that the male goes into the female. Now, we're going to call it holes and poles, because this is going to get just a little bit confusing, and I'm sorry if this video is a little long for you. Go find a shorter one. What you're looking to do here first is to remember that in order to have any sort of electrical connection, you must have a pole and a hole, and that hole is for the pole to go into. Now, in an MC4 connection, you have 2 different holes and 2 different poles, and they have to be together. So you need a hole and a pole to make a baby. So let's start with the actual metal connections. If you look at these, you can see that one is skinnier than the other. The other ends are identical. They're just openings for the wire to go into with crimper ends on it. So if you look at those, you'll see one is skinny and one is not. That's because this is a male and this is a female, or this is a pole and this is a hole. And you know that when you put those 2 together, one goes inside the other. That's easy enough to remember. Now the hard part comes when you're looking at these as well, and to take these apart, just use your little tool. We're going to slide it into the groove, work it a little bit until this thing comes apart. And now you'll see that on the set of connectors, we have one male, one pole, and one female, one hole. So we not only have a pole and a hole here, but we also have a pole and a hole that go on the inside of these. Now here's where it gets tricky. You have to have a pole and a hole to make a baby. Always remember that. So when you pull this apart and you see that one is the pole and one is the hole it goes in, you have to put the hole with the pole and the pole with the hole in order to make the pole fit in the hole. You understand that? So it takes one of each, one hole and one pole. That looks like a pole on the outside, but it actually takes the female connector on the inside of it, and one hole and one pole on the opposite side. Now, the other tricky part that you have to remember, you have to figure out for yourself, and I'm not going to say that it's normally this and normally that, because I've seen MC4 connectors and other forms of connectors on solar panels and they didn't match the norm. So in my particular case, this has been used, so it's a little sun bleached. It really used to be red, and as it gets back to the point where it was protected inside, you can see that it was red. So in this case, my pink is my positive and your black is always your negative. So on my solar panel, on my cable, I have the hole. So on my solar panel, for my power wire, I must have the pole. So I need the pole to go into the hole like that, which means on my cable, I need to make it identical to what I see here on this one that's already made. So I'm going to take my wire. I'm going to take my positive wire, and I'm going to use this female side with this male insert. I'm going to unscrew the back. When you unscrew the back, there's two pieces to it. There's an inner piece. This has a rubber O-ring on it, outer cap. So I'm going to feed the cap on, and you feed it on in the way that the smaller side that kind of goes around the wire goes on first. Then in this case, you're going to leave the O-ring up at the front, and you're going to feed it onto the wire like so, because this is going to go inside of there and it's going to make this watertight. So I put that on first. So I'm going to take my male or my pole, I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to use my needle nose pliers. These are flaps, so I'm going to fold one flap in. And this can get a little tricky. If you have the 25 bucks, buy the proper tool. But if you don't, we just get things done. Give it a good fold down. Come over to the other side. Also give it a good fold down. So now you've got one flap on top of the other. Now I'm going to use the cutter portion, the blade, and I'm going to crimp it without cutting through it. So just use a little bit of pressure and give it a crimp so that it's crimped, and then you can give it a pull test and you can see that it's not coming apart. Now it's much stronger if you actually buy the tool, I won't lie, but I've been doing it like this for a long time and I've never had any issues. So now what I want to do, I have my pole, I want to take my hole, I want to put it down there so that it goes right on there, you'll feel it, and give it a push and it'll click right on there. Once it does, then you take the back side and you screw it, and that's what makes your watertight connection. Now you have your tool here and you have your tool here. So if you feel the need, you can just give it another about 1/8 of a turn or so. And now you have a good strong connection, and when you go to plug this in, it will plug in no problem. I'll show you. With my extension, This is the extension. I'm using the opposite side just to show you it plugs right in, no issues, will make connection. And when I want to take it back apart, use your little tool, take it apart, and you're good to go. Oh, I always hold the connectors themselves. I don't ever grab the wire when I'm trying to use the tool to take that apart and pull on the wire, because you may mess up the connection. So hold the connection itself, use the tool to open it up, and you're good to go. Now what I'm going to do on the other side is exactly the opposite. I'm going to take my pole, I'm going to unscrew the cap, take out the back O-ring section, I'm going to put the back of the cap on, I'm going to put my O-ring section in there, my watertight section, and now I'm going to take the hole that goes with this pole and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Careful you don't get your fingers in your own pliers, because that hurts too. Bring one flap down on the other, give it a good squeeze, then use the wire cutter section about halfway. Press just enough to crimp without cutting through. You don't want to cut through this thing. You just want to put that little extra crimp on there, if you can see that, I hope. And now I've got a good strong connection. Now I can take my pole, I can slide this in all the way until it clicks. Then I just bring up the back, give it a quick turn, and now I have a watertight connection. And you know you've done it right if you can take both sides of the connections you just made and put them together, because you know now that they're opposite and that they work. And now to take them back apart, hopefully it's easy to take it back apart. Sometimes these can be a pain in the ass. And there you go. So now I know I've done that correctly. And the only thing you need to check before you decide which one to put on which lead is double check on your solar panel which one is the positive. In my case, it should be, and I've double checked this before camera, in my case this is my positive lead, this is the cord that I'm making, so the lead that comes off of the positive lead on my solar panel is this. It's this pole that goes into this hole. And my negative will then be the hole that goes over this pole. So I want to put MC4 connections on the other end as well. And there's a reason for that. I want this extension cable to work with any solar panel setup that I want. So I make pigtails, alright? I can make a pigtail out of a normal XT60 connector by putting MC4 connections on this side, and then I will be able to plug it in right here with MC4 connections, and then I'll have an MC60 on the end. So what I want to do now, on the other end, I want to make this cable cord system exactly like it would be if this were the solar panel. So if I have this coming off the solar panel to go into this side of the cable to keep it red, then on the other side on the red I want one of these to keep it exactly the same. So this side will be just the same as what's coming off the solar panel, and that way, as long as I make them opposite, if I come across the solar panel that has them on incorrectly, I can always, instead of using this end, I can use this end to come off the solar panel. It may be a little hard for you to understand. I hope it's not. But basically, on one end, I want this connector on the red, and on the other end, I want this connector on the red. So in order to do that, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to use my hole in my pole. If this is my pole, then I want to use my hole. So I'm going to take this bit apart, I'm gonna take these and put them on my wire. And I've been doing this for years, and I still have to double check and rethink, and sometimes I even put the wrong ends on the wrong parts and screw up, including during this video. I messed one of these up, put it on the wrong wire, and I had to cut it off. So don't feel bad. Just remember, these connections are cheap. These MC4 connectors, I want to say I paid $15 for that, for that set of 30. So they're like 50 cents a piece, not a big deal. They're watertight, they're UV protected, and if you mess one or two up, it's not the end of the world. Alright, we're good to go. Now I just want to double check that I have a female on the red on this end. So I want a male on the red on this end over the female part. I want to push this inside until it clicks in place. Then I want to bring this up and I always just hand tighten them. I don't even bother with the tool. I only did that for the video. Now on the other side, I want to do the same thing, but I want the female feed that on. That goes inside. Take the pole or the male, put it on there. Squeeze it on, give it a crimp, take the other end, feed it down till you hear it click or you feel it click, bring this up, and you're good to go. Now I have 4 watertight connectors, and the good thing about it, if you look at the red, on this end of the red I have a male, on this end of the red I have a female. So no matter how whatever solar panels I get, even if the connections are backwards, all I have to do is choose what side of the cable I want to use to the other side. Now when I make my extension, I have to be careful, and I have to double check that I put the correct MC4 connector on the correct side. And I'm going to treat this exactly the way it would come off of my solar panel that I use, and I'm going to make this just like the first one, and there you go. So I hope this video helped. You can take to protect your ends. These are both ends of the same extension cord that I just made for you, and I can in fact click the positives to the positives and the negatives to the negatives, and now I've even got protection for the end of my extension cable. So that's how you put them on. Remember, it takes a pole and a hole to make a baby, and when you're doing this, you need to have a pole and a hole on each connection. So you have to have a hole and a pole inside, and you have to have a pole on the outside and a hole on the inside, and that's how you put these things together using just a pair of needle nose pliers. Well, that was my long-winded showing you how to put MC4 connectors on the end of your extension cord. Now, I know it was a little bit longer-winded than normal. I repeated myself several times. There's an old saying that you have to hear something 26 times before you remember it. So believe me, the 6 times I said it on this video, not going to be enough for you. Make sure that you earmark this video, add it to your watch later list so you can find it anytime you need a quick reference. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's somewhere between my chin and my balls, and I'll see you next Solar Sunday.